This is Corporate Warrior, high-intensity training lifestyle and business with Lawrence Neal, helping you improve your health and physique, become a great personal trainer, and start and grow your hit business.
This episode is brought to you by ARX, the most innovative, efficient, and effective all-in-one exercise machines I have ever seen. I was really impressed with my ARX workout. The intensity and adaptive resistance was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I love how the machine enables you to increase the negative load to fatigue target muscles more quickly, and I love how the workouts are effortlessly quantified. The software tracks maximum force output, rate of work, total amount of work done, and more in front of you on screen, allowing you to compete with your previous performance to give you and your clients real-time motivation. The ARX uses a computer-controlled motor to give you the exact amount of resistance your clients need 100% of the time. This means that the resistance can never become dangerous, is intuitive and simple to use, and can provide you with all of the results you and your clients are looking for in a fraction of the time. ARX is highly effective and efficient in delivering all of the benefits of exercise, including increased strength, muscle mass, cardiovascular conditioning, bone mineral density, and injury recovery. As well as being utilized by many high-intensity trainers to deliver highly effective and efficient workouts to their clients, ARX comes highly recommended by world-class trainers and brands, including Bulletproof, Tony Robbins, and Ben Greenfield Fitness. To find out more about ARX and get $500 off install when you place an order, please go to arxfit.com and mention Corporate Warrior in the How Did You Hear About Us field. So again, to get $500 off install when you order, head on over to arxfit.com and enter Corporate Warrior in the How Did You Hear About Us field. Lawrence Neal here, and welcome back to CorporateWarrior.co. My guest today is founder and CEO of Quantify Fitness, Josh Jarrett. You can contact Josh via quantifyfitness.com, Quantify Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, and at Quantify Fitness on Twitter. Josh has supervised thousands of high-intensity workouts at Quantify Fitness and is a National Strength and Conditioning Association certified personal trainer. That's quite a mouthful. He is also a certified bulletproof coach, a certified neurooptimal brain trainer, and a health, fitness, data, and technology geek. Using over 20 years experience in corporate America, doing advanced data analytics and modeling for pricing and marketing, he plans to make Quantify Fitness more than just a smart gym, but a way for clients to aggregate all of their health and fitness data and make informed evidence-based decisions about how to best improve their health and fitness. This was a really fun and, as always, wide-ranging conversation. Josh is super impressive. And what I find particularly interesting about Josh is his ability to successfully balance growing Quantify Fitness, which he's done very, very well in a relatively short amount of time, alongside his career as Chief Marketing Officer and Senior Vice President for a big insurance business. In this conversation, we touch on a lot of things, including the Quantify Fitness mission. So I touched on it there in the bio, and that is that they are looking to track as much meaningful data as possible to potentially provide tailored insurance services. And there's a number of ways in which Quantify Fitness are looking to disrupt the health and fitness industry, which is very interesting indeed. We talk a lot about marketing. So if you are interested in marketing in business, and in particular, a boutique fitness business or your own high intensity training business, then you're going to find this very, very useful because Josh has a lot of skills with regard to marketing and has a strong mindset around this. We talk about the importance of not overanalyzing and testing and not being too emotionally attracted to a specific marketing tactic, but realizing what's working and what's not, and then obviously doubling down on that which you've tracked and is obviously been successful. To elaborate, we talk about all sorts of different marketing tactics. We start off by talking about how do you find your ideal target market for your business. We talk about Facebook ads, Google ads, website optimization, radio, the power of word of mouth, and how all of these can help drive more leads and conversions for your business. And we talk about the software and systems that Josh and Quantify Fitness use to automate a lot of their marketing services and how they basically connect everything together, integrate all of the different systems in order to make it a very good customer experience, but also use software to help free up time and manage this stuff very effectively. Josh is also part of the Hit Business membership. So I do encourage you, if you're a member, do contact or message Josh publicly on the discussion board to learn more about the specific software and recommendations he has around that for high intensity training businesses, because he's using software which a lot of you aren't using in your business that may actually add a ton of value to the way you do things. And Josh is really ahead of the game because he's got a lot of experience in using all sorts of different software packages and services in marketing specifically at various levels. So I do think he's a great resource. So obviously, for those listening who aren't in the membership, I'm sure you can contact Josh via the contact details I already gave. But if you're in the membership, then that's a great way to communicate with Josh as well in some of these things in more detail. So furthermore, we talk about strategy, how to think about marketing your business before you get busy doing a lot of tactics. For instance, we talk about the importance of focusing on strengths and not weaknesses. And if you can, outsourcing those weaknesses. We talk about how in the beginning, it can be very effective to trade workouts or trade services for services that you need to help grow your business. This is something I've spoken about with other listeners and members in terms of how they can trade free workouts for advertising or marketing or help with some of those things that perhaps we will need in the beginning when the budget is quite limited. We talk about how to grow a business. Is it ideal to grow and franchise, or should you retain ownership of all of your different locations? There's clearly pros and cons to both. It's a very personal decision in terms of what you decide to do as you scale your business. This is something I spoke at length with Luke Carlson in the membership. So if you're interested in learning all about the pros and cons of franchising versus retaining ownership of your high intensity training business as you scale, Luke and I covered a lot of this stuff in the membership on an exclusive podcast there. And obviously, if you're interested in signing up for that, please go to corporatewarrior.co where you can find out how to join the membership. We spoke about why Josh chose ARX. So Quantify Fitness is made up of lots of high-tech services and instruments, things like VASPA, infrared sauna, ARX, neuro feedback training, all of that stuff. So with all of the different options out there in terms of machines that he could have used and invested in for his business, things like MedX, Hammer Strength, I wanted to understand why he chose ARX. So we talk all about that, what he likes about ARX and how it's really helped him grow his business. And then lastly, we talk about productivity. I say to Josh, how do you manage all this stuff? How do you get it all done? How do you make sure that you spend time with family? All of that. And he talks a little bit about his own productivity and kind of time management tips, which is fundamentally around nutrition, sleep, and a mindfulness practice. So I think you'll find that very interesting if you're looking to boost the energy that you have for everything in your life. Lastly, again, slight caveat, this was recorded before my episodes with Doug McGuff on bulking up. And this again, it was recorded some time ago when I was doing bodyweight training. I'm actually currently doing a freeway split on machines, if you must know. But obviously, yes, this was recorded some time ago. So Josh, I do apologize for the delay, sir, and thank you for being so patient. And for all the show notes, please go to corporatewarrior.co/quantify fitness. And without further ado, I give you Josh Jarrett.
Let's go.
Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
You are most welcome. Thanks for joining me today. So let's start off talking about how you got into all this. Give some context and some background to listeners. So do you want to just start off by explaining how you got into, I guess, high intensity training and evidence-based exercise in general?
Yeah. I'd say I always have been into sports as a kid, but similar to you, being a sort of an ectomorph, when I got into college, I started getting more into lifting and trying to put muscle on, and tried just about every supplement under the sun. God knows what I was really putting in my body. But when you're 20, you sort of feel invincible. So I never really cared. I also never really cared about what I ate because I was fairly lean. And then fast forward about 15 years. So now I'm 35, about 5 years ago, tired all the time. We have 3 little boys. Reading to the kids after work was nearly impossible to do without falling asleep. So I started trying to figure out why that didn't really make sense to me. So I started getting into paleo, read Body by Science, started doing a modified high intensity strength training workout just at the community center. And then that sort of just led me down the path. The first person I really started following was Mark Sisson, the Primal Blueprint stuff. And I got hooked up with Dr. Kate Shanahan, who at the time she was the director of nutrition for the LA Lakers. Did a metabolic consultation with her, lab work, all that stuff. And that's when I really became familiar with skinny fat, or TOFI, so thin on the outside, fat on the inside. Learned that I was getting close to prediabetes, my hemoglobin A1C up around 5.6, and with a family history of diabetes and heart disease, that was sort of my wake-up call. I got 3 little boys. I can't be a burden, and I got to have more energy to play with them and read to them. So that sort of started my journey, and I started deciding that as I got into this stuff, and really started with nutrition and then the exercise stuff, as you get healthier and have more energy, you want to do more. And so I just started going down the wormhole of the health and fitness and some of the research and everything has been coming out.
So where did that take you next in terms of your health and fitness journey? Like, how did that evolve over time?
Yeah, so after I got started doing that, I've lost about 20 pounds, put on about 10 pounds of muscle over the last few years. My triglycerides went from being sky high to actually being lower than my HDL now. And I started going to some of the health and fitness conferences. The first one was the Bulletproof Conference. So at the time I decided I'm going to get certified personal trainer. So I went through the NSCA program, joined the Bulletproof coaching program because I wanted to figure out a way to sort of share all this stuff I was learning, because I saw how profound it could be in improving your health. And it wasn't like a huge commitment to do that. I mean, it sort of becomes a lifestyle after a while, and you don't have to get stuck on this yo-yo dieting roller coaster that most people that I was around were trying to do. So when I was out at the Bulletproof conference, that was when I saw ARX at the conference. And once I saw that, that's when that seed was sort of planted, trying to figure out, okay, how do I get things like ARX back to Nashville and all these other toys, and sort of scratch my own itch, while at the same time providing this technology to other people that could definitely get a lot of benefit out of it.
Yeah, and we'll get into that, and certainly get into your business. Do you want to just give the listeners some background on your career history?
Yeah, so I've spent the last 20 plus years in corporate America. I actually think that's what's helped me in a lot of ways, sort of create a vision for the gym, or smart gym is what we're calling it, and get things going. It's been in the insurance industry. So most of my career was in product management, where I've had responsibility for P&Ls for hundreds of locations and hundreds of millions of dollars. And being that it's the insurance industry, there's a actuarial science component, data analytics, programming. And that's sort of the second part of what we're trying to do with Quantify, is really leverage all this data to provide evidence-based recommendations and help people in a very user-friendly, easy way improve their health.
Cool. And let's talk about that in more detail, because we did start talking about this before we got recording, and I was like, no, you know what? Let's stop there, because this is the good stuff. So tell me about where you see all this going, what the long-term aim is.
So I mean, when you think about the all the data that we're collecting with ARX, we use Vasper, another tool called High Octane Ride. We're collecting a ton of data around how people's fitness is improving over time. A lot of our clients are already wearing things like Fitbits, or we've been promoting the Oura Ring just because it seems to have a lot more rich data that's valuable from a recovery standpoint and sleep standpoint. People are tracking their nutrition, all those things. So what we want to be able to do is bring all that together, work with doctors here in town that are aligned on sort of a low carb eating approach, and bring that into an app or something where people can now have some data that's coming back. So we're going to quantify this stuff and maybe a point system or something like that to help them visualize their fitness getting better, their nutrition getting better, and what that means for their overall health.
Cool. So are you actually going to create the app then that feeds all of these kind of, I guess, APIs into it or something like that?
Yeah. So app dashboard on the website. That's where we're looking at right now.
Cool. Okay. Here's one thing I just want to challenge you on, I guess, for a second. And I was talking to Dr. Doug McGuff about this recently. Is, obviously there's a huge movement right now for the quantified self, tracking everything imaginable. What is your view on, some people feel like, well, maybe we're over tracking, maybe some metrics don't matter that much, and actually it's becoming a little bit counterproductive if we're trying to measure everything. So do you have a view on that? Do you think maybe there's only perhaps a few things you really should be looking at and to make this more productive?
I sort of agree. I think that's sort of on us to present things in a way that's not going to create just more analysis paralysis. And so focusing on just some high level thing like points, it's feeding everything in, but you're not going to be having to sit there and interpret 100 different variables in there that using AI and things like that, we can make it very user friendly so that the user isn't going to be overwhelmed.
And how does this, you were talking before about how this might relate to the insurance market. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think long term, there's obviously issues in the U.S. and specifically just with health and health insurance and the cost. And so long term, using this kind of data to work with life insurance companies, health insurance companies, and what can we do to sort of reward people for healthy behavior? I mean, there's people that care about their health, and then there's people that don't. And so what can we do to work with these big insurance companies to be able to align those interests so that the people that are going to the gym, they're doing evidence-based exercise, nutrition, focusing on their sleep, mindfulness, all that stuff. How can we tie that all together?
Are you familiar with Health IQ?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that kind of, because they seem to be quite ahead in terms of providing more bespoke insurance for healthier individuals or people that are more focused on improving their health. Is that kind of the thing you mean?
Sort of. I think they're more of a lead gen engine. So they get people, they qualify them by having them do a quiz and determine whether they know enough to be someone that a life insurance company would want to give a discount to. I'm thinking more of all this data is integrated so that it's more of a pricing side of things versus just the ongoing pricing. So sort of multivariate versus just a flat discount for being healthy.
Oh, I see. So, but are we talking about mostly life insurance in this?
Right now, I mean, as the regulatory environment changes in health, hopefully someday we can get to where it is as on the health side as well.
And okay, and that your premiums for, I guess this is more an American culture thing, which is why I sound really ignorant. But is it more that the premiums will vary based on your data, like how optimal your health is based on your data? Is that and that
Correct.
might lower your premium? Is that basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Cool.
And there's millions of people that can't afford coverage right now. A lot of them are healthy millennials. And so there's a big opportunity to do what some of the other lines of insurance have already done around segmenting risk, and the people that deserve discounts get discounts and things of that nature.
That's pretty cool. So you need quite a clever algorithm, I suppose, to look at all the data, look at that person's status, and then price and offer that premium for that person.
Yeah. I mean, I think initially you have to start with sort of the data collection. So like what Health IQ is doing, you just give a flat discount. And then over time you start collecting that data, and you're able to do more things like that. Maybe it's not necessarily on price. You never know. It's a highly regulated environment in the U.S., so there may have to take different approaches. But I think where the opportunity lies is really connecting all these silos around health and bringing them together. So it's not just your gym, it's not just your diet, your doctor, all those things, bringing them together and helping people.
How would you look to monetize that, or if you even would look to do that?
I mean, there's a lot of business models there. You got the gym, you got insurance, you got the app. We haven't really decided the optimal way to go about it. So I'm sort of in a nice position right now, and that not dependent on income from the gym. So we're constantly just reinvesting into things like this, and that just to get to the point where we can sort of disrupt the health and fitness industry, and figure out as we go what's the best way to do that as far as where the revenue is coming from.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit more about Quantify Fitness. I mean, you've got an extraordinary background. I mean, the fact that you're 35, that's right, isn't it?
40 now. So that was 5 years ago.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, I remember you saying now. But still, regardless, your speed at which you've progressed through your career, and to get to certainly to sort of CMO, senior vice president level is pretty impressive. And I'm really interested to learn about, the what you've learned in terms of marketing and related skills, and how you've used that to grow your business, because your website is one of the best websites I have seen in this space. And when I say this space, I guess I am also talking about a lot of the high intensity training studios that have been around for a long time. I know they're slightly different in that they may not be all focused on things like ARX and quantification and Vesper and high octane and all these different devices. But at the end of the day, it's when you understand this modality of exercise, it's kind of a very, it's all kind of a similar thing. It's efficient, high intensity exercise, at least the exercise aspect anyway. But the websites out there are just nowhere near as impressive as yours. I mean, I've only seen a few that even compare. So I thought yours was a great kind of user experience. It's very simple, easy to use. Anyway, that's only one aspect of, I guess, what we'll be talking about here. But I'm just really keen to understand, how did you figure out the marketing strategy for Quantify Fitness when you opened?
Yeah, I think the key is just not overanalyze things and be willing to fail fast. I think we've tested hundreds of different approaches, from services in the gym to how we market, and we're just quick to, if something's not working, kill it and test something new. So we're sort of in a totally new world with this, what we're trying to build here as far as a model for a smart gym. And so we have to be willing to, at the same time, test things. If it sucks, kill it, move on to the next thing until we get something that's working.
And when you say test things, are you there's obviously a famous saying, which is if you don't measure it, you can't manage it, right?
Right.
So are you always, when you say test something, are you always tracking it? Like tracking how, and how do you do that?
If it's marketing, there's lots of various ways we can track on the marketing side, as far as impressions to people interested that are turning into leads, that turn into people that come in for the trial, to turn into paying customers. If it's something around that we're doing in the gym, like we tried to experiment with some blood flow restriction stuff early on that wasn't FASPR, and it's just more tedious. And we've always been focused on how do we scale this. So there's tons of modalities and ways of doing high intensity strength training, some of these other things we're doing, but how can you make them scalable and not have to have an army of people necessary if you can use the technology to sort of get you there faster so that you can start popping up more locations a lot quicker. And so that's also a side of the sort of on the same side of things as far as what we've tested, what didn't work, and then the evolution over time of how we've gotten to where we are today.
Cool. And just to pan back, and I know you just said there, the key is to not overthink it, fail fast. But when you first sat down to go, how are we going to, like when you sat down, had your piece of paper out and your pen, and you're looking at, okay, we're going to set up Quantify Fitness and we're going to go after this market. Like, I'm just very interested in how you think about that stuff. Like, did you sit down and think, right, our target market is this person. We are going to design our marketing to sell to that person. Is that, like, walk us through how you might think about when you first sit down to figure out a marketing strategy for a business like this?
Yeah, no, I mean, we sort of started with everyone. And then as over time, like the people that love CrossFit, they're going to love this. Well, it turns out that we don't have that same community, family environment that they have when you go to a CrossFit gym or to a class. So taking that into consideration, you start refining that target audience. Where we're at now, we're probably 35 and up. Most people executive. We're in Nashville, so we have a lot of musicians, people in the music industry. And so we've sort of over time, as we've tested and we've saw things fail miserably, promotions on Instagram driving people in that were all in their 20s and they came in for a freebie, but no one was ever intending to sign up, things like that. And so that we've sort of, as we've marketed those various audiences over time, we've sort of landed on where our sweet spot is with what we're offering.
And so it's interesting. So you haven't been, so what kind of strikes me is you've been quite objective the whole time. You've not been too emotional. Like, Luke talks about this, how a lot of businesses start and they want to work with athletes. They're like, oh no, we're going to just work with like people that really love exercise and are really obsessed with it, like athletes and like, although actually that's not always the case. But people like themselves, right? And what they kind of realize a lot of the time is that quite often they will not appeal to that type of person, but appeal to a totally different person. And it perhaps is about, like you say, about being objective, about measuring, and not being too emotional, attached to any particular way of doing things.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
And tell me, like, so you've kind of figured out your audience over time. What kind of tactics have been most effective for you in terms of getting people through the door and just driving leads?
In the early days, we did again, on that side of things, we've tried just about everything you can test. We've tried radio, print, and that social media. Right now, we're primarily 100% Facebook, Google, and then word of mouth. We've got to being open for 2.5 years. Now we get a lot more word of mouth traffic. And then the other stuff we do around social media to target people, those sort of work together in sort of a campaign. I know one obstacle is someone comes in and their mind's blown, and then they go tell their friend that they got to work out in 10 minutes, and their friend's like, "You're crazy. There's no way. You're just out of shape." And so how do we help them by providing educational content out there that those same people they're talking to, their friends, are now seeing it, and now they can learn about it and additionally from and sort of wrap their mind around what their friend is actually doing. And now coming for a couple years and their strength is up 3 times what it was when they came. Their bodies are changing. So now people, okay, what are you really doing? And so the word of mouth is driving a lot of business these days.
Interesting. So the word of mouth doesn't work on the outset necessarily as well, because it just seems too absurd.
Yeah, unless you get the people that just like, they gotta see like that. The one thing about advertising, 10 minutes a week, it can either help you or hurt you. Some people just tune it out because they think it's another gimmick. And then there's people that are, okay, what is this? I gotta see what this is about.
Interesting. How do you know, by the way? How did you know that was the case? Would you get that feedback from existing client? And if so, how would you capture that?
Yeah, we definitely get feedback. Survey customers, ask them. We ask everyone how they heard about us, and then as well as why they decide to come in. And we get feedback from them about them trying to get their friends to come in and what the feedback they get from their friends.
Cool. I do want to get into more of these tactics, and I'm going to guess you're quite a big fan of systems and software, Josh, from what it sounds like, and so I want to ask you some stuff about that too. So, okay, so word of mouth, which is I guess you hear that quite a lot from a lot of the high intensity training style businesses that have grown quite fast. Is I think Doug Holland said it best, and I think Luke highlighted this, which is that if someone isn't remarking about their workout with you for 12 hours afterwards, then you haven't done your job properly. And that the power of that in terms of driving word of mouth is quite interesting. Although it's interesting hearing how actually that can almost not backfire, but perhaps not be as effective in the case of something like ARX, where it's just so damn efficient that, like you say there, it might not be so effective in the short term. You also mentioned there about how you use Facebook. Can you elaborate on how you use that exactly?
Yeah, so we run ads on Facebook as well as Google, and we build lookalike audiences off of our client base. And you talked about sort of a systemized approach. We use in the US, MindBody is sort of the point of sale platform. And then we have, there's a tool out there called Zapier, which sort of allows a small business to really connect this whole digital ecosystem, your CRM, your point of sale, your marketing, digital marketing. So that way you remove the manual process. So as someone signs up, they see these ads on Facebook, they come in for a trial, they see these ads on Facebook, they convert, they get into this funnel. We do a lot of segmenting things we use ConvertKit for email platform that gives us the flexibility to segment things in a variety of ways to make sure we're trying to deliver content that's appropriate.
Now, as someone who's just, as you know, built an online membership to help the high intensity training business owners out there, it can be very overwhelming to learn about all these different tools. I had to learn about Zenforo, which is a membership forum platform, ActiveCampaign, which is an email provider, Thrivecart, which is a payment checkout system, and learn how to kind of integrate it together. I hired someone to help me set it up, and I actually pay them monthly to help me support it and deal with any issues and things like that. And I found if I didn't have that, it would have taken me probably more than twice the time to get it started and get it going. But obviously you have to learn about it as well. And you mentioned a few tools there. Zapier, great tool. How do you, again, ConvertKit, great tool as well, from what I understand. But how did you find the time? Did you already know about these tools? Did you hire someone to do this for you? Like, how did you go about setting it all up?
I think some of that just goes back to my background in product management, marketing. So a lot of familiarity around these tools and passion around this kind of stuff. So that makes it a little easier. Plenty of failures over the course of my life, starting businesses and successes, and being able to sort of take a lot of what needs to happen to start a business and do a lot of it myself without having to hire people. And that doesn't mean, there's people I am hiring to help on like the legal side and stuff like that, that I don't know anything about. So I think it's just going to come down to what you know, what you're passionate about, and then finding smart people where you need to fill the gap.
So this is interesting. So you've really worked on your strengths, and you know what you're good at. You know, you have a lot of skills around online marketing and offline probably, and so you knew to focus there. And that, you know, there's other areas where obviously you don't have the strength or the knowledge where you're hiring help. And I guess, you know, a lot of people listening to this could do exactly the same thing, where they might not have. I know they don't for a fact, actually. They might not have the skills in this marketing stuff. And I guess it comes down to what you can afford. If you're in a position where you have budget and you have enough revenue where you can outsource that and hire someone to build that side of the business, then that's great. But if not, you do have to just bite the bullet and learn how to do it yourself, don't you? I suppose.
Yeah, no, I think so.
And to be fair, with things like YouTube and Google these days, it's quite amazing how quickly you can upskill yourself in the different products we mentioned. You know?
Yeah, and then like on the same token, I suck at content. I don't take good pictures. I don't do good videos. So that's something that sort of outsourcing and hiring real videographers or content people that are good at that actually take a good picture and it looks good on Instagram. Because when I take it, just looks amateur hour when I try to do that stuff.
So you actually, so you've hired photographers then to do that for you?
Yeah, and there's the nice thing about there's an opportunity to barter. So I don't know, I'm sure a lot of the guys starting their gyms, guys and gals starting the gyms, I mean, look at that as a opportunity to trade services, because I think that's a way to give someone a membership. They agree to take some pictures, do some videos, some testimonials. So there's a lot of different services I think you can get by looking at things from that angle.
That's huge. Yeah. As a startup, I think that's massive. Trading services to help you get started. I've done that plenty of times and still do sometimes. And I think that is a very, very good tactic to use, especially in the beginning. Talking about things like Facebook. So you've got the Facebook page, but you do targeted Facebook paid ads as well. Do you also do things like content and that you distribute on Facebook? Do you do things like that regularly? Like, have a strategy around that at all?
Like a blog?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, we promote content through the blog on Facebook, and then newsletter, things like that. But the ads on Facebook are usually just targeted to whatever audience we're trying to reach. Like if we're down to where, since we're a local business, you want to make sure you're targeting people that live nearby. And so making sure you're using the tools that are available to hit the people that live nearby that meet the demographics you're trying to target. And it's pretty easy to do these days with the information that's out there in Facebook and Google.
Yeah. What do you when you do your Facebook ads? I mean, Facebook's so cool these days because you can be so incredibly targeted. Like, what is your criteria when you actually create the ad, if you remember?
The criteria for
like the demographic, and because you can target the most obscure details, if memory serves me right.
So we're always looking at 30, 35 and up. We do some targeting around jobs, like what kind of careers people have, incomes, things like that. And then location is one of the biggest ones.
And you said Google as well. Are you just talking about SEO or Google AdWords or both?
We do both.
Yeah.
So we'll do some paid search stuff around personal training, things where people have more. If you're someone searching for a personal trainer, their intent to spend more than just a $29 gym membership is there. So we'll focus on things like that.
Okay. And your website, do you drive much traffic to the site and much in the way of free trials through there?
Yeah, we do. The website drives a lot of traffic. We just put a AI chatbot out there that's probably the easiest way for people to schedule these days. It's pretty amazing how well it works.
And that's the bottom right-hand corner, isn't it? I've seen that.
Yeah, and then someone can do it right from their phone through a text message. So actually, when we're doing Facebook and we're targeting, a lot of times we're creating a link on an ad that when someone clicks, it pre-fills their text message, that then they just send, and just through their text messaging app, they're getting registered with Quantify, scheduling their first appointment, and it happens in a matter of seconds just through a back and forth text message that feels like you're talking to a person, but it's an AI chatbot.
That's beautiful. That's what we call no friction.
Yep.
Because that's what this game's all about, isn't it? It's about, how can you make the process as frictionless and painless as possible for the end user? Because, there's a number of websites out there in this industry where it's just a pain for the user to actually find out how they book a session. And it definitely is worth spending some time really thinking about that. The software that you use for the AI bot, what do you actually use for that at the moment?
The service is called Bowtie.
Okay. I heard of that one.
Yeah. So
yeah. I know there's one called, that's probably, actually, I was going to say I'm about to use a service called Intercom, but it's quite different. I think your one, the integration with the texting, that I'm not sure if Intercom can do that. So yeah, I will link to Bowtie. It's called. Is it like as in BOWTIE?
Yeah, bowtie.ai, I believe, is their site.
Okay, cool. I'll link to that. It sounds like it could be. I think that's a great thing to have on the website. Having that there for people to assist people. So out of all these things, out of like Google, SEO, AdWords, Facebook, word of mouth, what's the highest return for you? What is generating the most leads for you in your business?
I'd say word of mouth for sure. Just for leads as well as conversion. Okay. So if you get a personal recommendation from someone, that's going to convert 80 to 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Versus if you do a promotion on Instagram for a freebie, you may get a 20%, if you're lucky, conversion out of that.
Right. So word of mouth is best in terms of number of leads and conversion as well.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it's hard to, being in the marketing world, we always look at sort of a last touch attribution. So the last thing that someone did is always the one that gets credit. So if I referred you to the gym and you went, that's the credit that goes to referral. If you saw an ad on Facebook, the Facebook ad gets the credit. But in reality, there's a variety of impressions someone sees. They could have seen 20 impressions by that point.
Yeah.
And so being able to marry that world together and understand how those all influence each other. We're not there yet on the gym side, but that's sort of my background as well on the marketing side. So trying to understand the relationship between all those touch points.
Yeah, but I guess what would your advice be to the gym owner who doesn't have your expertise but is trying to do that or trying to understand that?
Don't worry about it right now. It's like I'm not worried about it for the gym. When you're talking a goal of 100, 200 clients, that's probably in the realm of analysis paralysis. I mean, if you're a multi-location business and you're running TV and you're doing a variety of different advertising, then you really that's more important. But for a single location gym, I wouldn't really worry about that level of sophistication.
Why did you bother with some of the offline stuff, print? Maybe you mentioned radio. When you hear the likes of Gary Vaynerchuk saying that that's all a waste of money and you should be putting all your money into underpriced attention like Facebook and Instagram. Why did you even bother with that other stuff?
I think there's an argument. You can do the Gary V. It takes a lot of effort and time to build that versus launching something and getting the reach you get with radio or TV. We were fortunate to have a former professional NFL player sort of promote and do the commercial on the radio, as well as come in and try the equipment and sort of film a testimonial. So that right there made it worth it for us to go down that path.
I saw that video. He looked very exhausted after not very much time.
Yeah.
How did you manage to do that? Did you have to pay him, or was that just a favor? Like, how did you arrange that?
We paid the radio station, yeah. So it was all sort of part of the deal.
Right. Okay. So that's okay. So that's quite a powerful idea. Find someone in your local area who's quite well known to act as like a way to promote it in the beginning.
Yeah, and get the news out there. That was one of the things early on that I think drove a lot of business in the early days, because we had the reporter sort of go through the workout before you did the story, so that sort of took that skepticism out. And I don't know, being the news, I mean, we couldn't have really scripted a better news story. It was very promotional, it felt like, and that was just the news reporter reporting based on what he experienced. Yeah. And that drove a lot of people watching the news sort of trust, even on commercials that run during the news, people just seem to trust more. So when the news sort of promotes a business, you're going to get a lot of lift from that.
This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, ARX. Are you looking to create a cutting-edge, high-intensity training facility? Are you confused on what equipment to use or how to separate yourself from the masses? Well, then ARX Fit might be the answer you're looking for. I asked Mike Polano from ARX a few questions about how ARX machines are challenging the status quo of the exercise industry around the globe. Mike, if you could, give the listeners a quick summary of why ARX is so different from the traditional machines or tools they're used to seeing in most exercise facilities.
ARX is totally different than anything you've seen before. This isn't just another weight stack machine. We've looked at the last 40 years of exercise technology and used that knowledge to create something entirely new. ARX uses a new form of resistance, a motor, and we pair that motor with computer software so that we can maximize the safety, effectiveness, and efficiency of your workouts. So you may be asking, okay, but how does ARX compare to weights? Traditional machines you see in gyms today are based on lifting metal weights and battling gravity. What people don't realize is that when you're forced to lift a static weight like this, one that doesn't adapt or change while you use it, you're underloading yourself rep after rep. And this unnecessarily limits your ability to make improvements. With ARX, we've taken a totally different approach. We removed weights and gravity from the equation altogether. Instead, ARX combines our patented motorized resistance with our custom computer software to provide you with the world's safest, most effective, and most quantified form of resistance training ever. When you train with ARX, you are training to your perfect level of resistance, both positively and negatively 100% of the time. No more guessing what weight to use. ARX does all of that for you, instantly and automatically. We'll also track and measure every second of every rep, so you can quantify all of your workouts to find out if you're improving and by exactly how much. Whether your goals are bigger muscles, increased strength, stronger bones, or just to look good in a bathing suit, ARX can help you achieve all of these and more, but do so in a fraction of the time it would take compared to traditional equipment. If you're looking for the most efficient, most effective, and most quantified piece of exercise equipment on the market today, then look no further than ARX.
Thanks, Mike. That all sounds really impressive. If you'd like to learn more about ARX, visit arxfit.com and mention that you heard about ARX on the Corporate Warrior podcast to receive an exclusive deal of $500 off shipping and installation off your ARX machines. I guess just kind of summarizing this piece on tactics for a second. I'm just also curious that, conscious, I should say, that too many tactics can overwhelm the entrepreneur, especially if they're small shop, don't have the team, perhaps have to learn a lot of these things themselves. Would you say that it's probably best that maybe someone starts off with just a couple of things that they use to market their business so that they can actually track and see what's working, as opposed to just, throwing a load of shit up against the wall, not really tracking it very well and just trying to get customers?
Yeah, and I would say if it's like, if something you're not familiar with, find a resource like a digitalmarketer.com or something that has tons of templates and things out there where you can really think through the exercises. What are you trying to accomplish? What's the best tactic to accomplish that? How are you going to measure it? As well as like thinking about your brand. And one of the ones that we're fond on is it's called story brand. So thinking about your customer as the hero and you're the guide, and really looking at it through a customer lens versus getting out there and just, oh yeah, we're awesome, come to our gym, we're awesome. And that sort of conflicts with the person you're trying to reach.
So talking about it from their perspective, what they want to achieve, their voice, as opposed to talking about yourself. Is that kind of what you're saying and all in that messaging?
Yeah, it's exactly right. So really nailing how you want to position yourself. And I think that the website, that's going to be most people's first impression. Yeah. So having a website that communicates that well about what you offer, and then make it easy, incredibly easy for them to sign up, remove all those barriers.
I want to talk about your website in a bit more detail in a sec. And one thing I will mention before we get there is I was talking to one of the members actually recently, and they were telling me how they had joined BNI, which is a networking organization, which is a great way to network and meet other entrepreneurs and get referrals for your business. There's a few case studies of actually members within my membership and entrepreneurs within High Intensity who have actually managed to grow their business quite significantly through something like BNI. But this person actually met someone at BNI who's they're a social media agency type, and one of their services was Facebook ads, and they offered to do Facebook ads for the person free of charge. All that they would need is obviously the money to pay for the ads. So the service is free, if you know what I mean. Because for them, it's like they can then prove themselves. And if they prove themselves, then obviously if the client, the hit business get a result, then they're going to invest, and they're probably going to have a long-term partnership. And I think, again, this goes back to the importance, I think, in networking. It doesn't have to be it could be any group, but just building relationships up with like-minded people who have perhaps the skills you don't have. I'm just curious, Josh, is that something that you've done? Did you already have a network? I mean, I know you've, like you said just now, a lot of these skills you had yourself, but for the things you don't have you gone outside? Have you joined? I mean, actually, you mentioned before about bulletproof coaching, various conferences. What's your thoughts on like networking for that reason?
Oh yeah, I absolutely think it's huge. I mean, that's sort of one of my, just a weak point in everything, just because of sort of the gym is to some extent a side hustle right now. So getting out there and networking, don't have as much time, but just the nature of the business, just organically over time, get to meet a lot of smart, creative, talented people that's sort of what we're doing right now, like with the video photography guy that I mentioned, and some of the other resources we have now at the gym. Our networking just all came through. I mean, they ended up coming into the gym. That's how we met them. But I absolutely think something like BNI makes a ton of sense, or meetup groups, finding meetup groups where people are already talking about related things like fitness or nutrition, and using those as ways to meet people.
Yeah, I mean, the indirect opportunity, the opportunity you don't expect that comes from stuff like that is quite tremendous. And it's fun, right? You get to meet people who are similar to you, and learn about them and build those relationships up. So I think it's just a really important, thing to add to your calendar and to your to-do list. Now, your website, which I keep going on about and raving about, I think is really good. It's very clear. Now, tell me, like, how did you build the website? Did you do that? Did you hire someone to do that? Like, tell me a little bit about how you got the website going.
Yeah, I just WordPress. So finding a good template, and then
what's the theme?
I've built websites before, so some experience with HTML and CSS and just very minor coding.
Okay.
The theme it's Thrive Themes.
All right. Yeah, it's a very clean looking website. So another thing you did then, which is interesting, I thought you might have said you brought someone in to do that or something. How long did that take you to do?
I mean, if you went back and looked at it's been an evolution. So when I think about something, I'll go out there and make it better. But this latest version is only about 3 months old. I've had ones that looked a lot worse than that in the early days. And so this will change too, probably in the next couple of months as I tweak it based on feedback or things that I don't feel that these words are working or resonating or whatever. So, but the theme, that's probably the easiest part. I think the words that you put on there are the most important.
Yeah. And is the purpose of the site, it looks like the purpose is just to drive free trials. It's like there's no other, like that is the goal. Is that?
Yeah, that's 100%.
Yeah. Because it's because I talked to obviously Discover Strength about this, and they have the same intent, although they will have more buttons than yours in their menu, more information. But, I actually prefer, I mean, maybe they have those for specific reasons, but I think if you can, sometimes less is more, in that if you look at your top right, and I'll obviously put your website in the blog. If you look at your top right menu buttons, it's literally like schedule, pricing, and something else, which I can't remember, which you probably know.
Reviews.
That's it. Reviews, right? And it's like there's no about Josh. Not that that's a bad thing, but you've just kept it you've kept the choices small, a small number.
Yeah, all that stuff's done at the bottom. You can go to the blog, you can go to the About Us, the contact page, careers, disclaimer, privacy policy, all that stuff. But keeping the things that we want people to find the easiest at the top.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Because obviously mine's different because I'm not promoting a gym. I've got a podcast and a blog. So mine has all sorts of things coming off it. And I see that as being my blog is almost like home base for everything else I do. So, if I end up starting another business, it would be separate and it would just, have a link in the blog. But I guess all these things in terms of the actual design are always determined by, what your goals are and what you're trying to optimize for.
Right.
So you did an MBA back in the day. And I'm just curious because MBAs sometimes get quite bad press. Are they worthwhile doing? I know you did yours in entrepreneurship. So I'd just like to hear how did the MBA influence you and help you in your own kind of entrepreneurial journey?
Well, actually, I never actually finished it because of my career moving around the country for a job that sort of prevented me from finishing it. But yeah, I mean, hard to say that the academic stuff, it's not going to hurt, but a lot of this is just trial and error, creativity. I think it's just going to be down to the individual on who they are as a person, on whether or not it's with the internet. It's so easy to sort of create your own education, what you're passionate about versus go through someone else's syllabus. And so I think that's what's cool is you can literally go out there and read research on something you're passionate about and get a great education on that subject.
For sure. Did you invest in the MBA yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you pissed that you didn't finish it?
No, I mean, no, I'm at a good place. No real regrets. It's hasn't really been a detriment. Would
you go back and finish it?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, moving on. So no, there's not really much more to say on that. So going back to Quantify Fitness, tell me about, you've talked about the mission actually, to be fair, in terms of the data side of it. Are you still looking to open up more locations? Are you happy? It'd be really interesting to talk to, or for you to reiterate what you've achieved, if you're comfortable, in terms of clients and any other information you're willing to give in terms of growth, and then what that means for you in terms of scale into maybe more locations.
Yeah, no, we're right around the 2-year mark. Our goal per location was to get to about 150 clients, and we're about getting close to 2/3 of the way there with this first location.
Cool.
Once we do that, we'll probably do another couple here in Nashville or outlying areas, and then the one piece we're trying to determine now is what the scaling looks like beyond that, whether it's a franchise model, whether we do it on, my background is in brick and mortar. So that's selfishly where I want to go, but that obviously requires a lot more capital to do that. So we're juggling those options right now.
And there's more overhead, right? And if you have to manage it yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a really interesting point of discussion because it's something which some members and other people are thinking about how they go about this in their business, the pros and cons of owning the additional locations versus franchising. What have you learned in your own, I guess, experience? Obviously being in a large business yourself, but also just reviewing your options in this circumstance.
I think if you can own them, you're going to have a lot more control over the brand. And so that's more appealing. But and if you go the franchise route, you can't just say, hey, we're going to do a franchise. Here's the brand. You have to support the franchisees and have a formula for them to get people in the door and stuff like that. So just totally different, a lot different ways to think about what it looks like in 5 or 10 years, depending on which way you go with that.
Yeah. I mean, do you know of any franchise businesses? And I mean, yeah, I just wonder if you know of any in this sector at all that come to mind. Because I don't, if I think about it.
I've talked to somewhat related businesses, not 100% what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the feedback I got was, I'll never do it again. It costs so much money because there's a lot of upfront costs, legal costs to take the franchise route and different laws depending on states. Mm-hmm. And so there's a big legal component that I've just sort of been waiting to meet somebody. just like I have with everything else, like wait for it to happen organically to find. We've talked to some attorneys before and just didn't have a good feeling. So that's another thing. Don't really want to get into business with people that just to get into business, it's got to feel right. Mm-hmm. So we haven't been rushing that per se.
So this is interesting. So like if you're interstate, right? Like you're growing within the same state, then maybe it's slightly more simplified, but obviously there's still legal ramifications and things you have to invest in and get right. But then does that get way more complicated then if you're scaling across multiple states where the laws are different?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Interesting. Okay, so what else is there to consider? I suppose there's the branding, the standards. It's the other thing. It's like if you're really, I mean, Discover Strength, obviously they don't franchise. And I believe it's probably, well, if I'm making assumptions, largely for the reasons you've already described, in terms of having control and doing because I mean, it's almost like Discover Strength is like an organism, and it's all playing a collective role. And you can tell that by how everything's so interconnected. And I can't help but think that in a franchise model, the problem is you lose some of that. Even if you have tried to have standards for everything and try to have, consistent branding, there's just an element of autonomy which kind of disrupts that a bit.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, the modality, if you're you need personal trainers versus if you're using technology like ARX Vasper and you want people that are passionate about health and fitness. But my view would be you put people through like the HIT Uni program or something so they understand what's going on, why these things are working. But it's easier to scale and control operationally what your clients are doing at the gym by using these tools.
Yeah, interesting thing to explore. Where do you think you'll kind of decide on how you move forward on that?
Probably hopefully by this time next year, we'll have made a decision and be opening the next location.
Okay. And that will be in Nashville, will it?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. And it sounds like you're leading towards ownership. Is that fair to say?
I'd say I change my mind every day. So you talked to me on the day that I'm leaning this way.
Cool. How might you go about this type of exercise? Do you have like a pros and cons table where you compare both, or like how do you? I'm curious to know how you think about this stuff.
Yeah, no, we did exactly that and sort of pro forma it out on what it looks like as far as upfront investment versus what the model looks like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if all goes well, as far as with the financials. And so those are both of those things are sort of how we're looking at which direction to go.
And, I'm kind of jumping back a bit now, but just curious, you saw ARX out, I think it was one of the Bulletproof conferences you told me.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, ARX are an impressive piece of kit, but why did you decide to go the ARX route versus traditional machines, maybe Medex or Nautilus or Hammer Strength? Because, ARX, it does require a fair amount of capital to get started, and that's often the barrier for some startups. So why did you go that route versus buying more traditional machines?
For us, it was the data, the ease of getting that data and sort of how that fits in with what we're trying to. We're obviously the Quantify is a gym, but that's just one piece of what we're trying to do as we scale and build the brand. That there's other things that are tied to that, to Quantify, and the data, being able to access that data and feed it into something and help people measure their progress without having to write it down on a sheet of paper.
So that was you were thinking long game right from the get-go when you bought those.
That on top of just how easy it is, the learning curve for using ARX, the safety, all those things. I mean, there's a variety, but one of the big pieces outside of just the efficiency of it as a tool for high intensity strength training was the data.
Yeah. And you have the Omni and the Alpha, don't you, in your place?
Yep.
Yeah.
We do.
Awesome. And do you use those regularly yourself?
Yeah. So I do the exact, what we sort of promote as our version of personal training. We call it the fitness formula. Just because we use ARX, Vasper, high octane ride, sauna. We do neurofeedback as well, and they all sort of fit together and create what we think about it sort of like Steve Jobs wears black shirt every day to remove that decision fatigue. And that's sort of how we position things for our clients, that they don't have to think about it. They're going to come in, they're going to do this. Here's the formula, and we're confident it's going to work. And we'll track the data to prove it that it will.
I love that. Predetermine everything. I mean, that's obviously part of the value of having a personal trainer as well, right? It's like, this morning, I'm just started doing one of these. This is going to sound totally, medieval compared to the services you offer, but I'm doing body weight Project Kratos workouts by Drew Bay. And part of the barrier for me is like, I'm doing a new routine. I need to write it out. Okay. Do I know how to do all these exercises? Have I done them before? So there's that whole, and then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, God, this is going to be horrible as well. This is going to be so horrible. And obviously, it's far easier if we're able to just, go straight into something. I mean, I'm obviously very motivated, so I'm a bit of an outlier in that regard. So it's, I just get it done. But I can see how, I think that whole eliminating decision fatigue, making it smooth transition is certainly attractive to people.
Yeah. So, and now we've been, after 2 years, we have enough data where we can sort of say, okay, on average, after 1 month, this is where you would expect to be after 3 months, after a year, after 2 years, and just sort of look at our population of people that have made it to those various points and what their progression. I mean, it's, as you would expect, it's pretty linear, that the longer they've been doing it, the more dramatic their strength increases are.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. I've heard that a number of times of people leveraging ARX data as like testimonials to existing and obviously new clients. The fact that you can actually show the graphs and things like that is pretty awesome. So no, I do think that's a huge benefit of those machines. So what is you must love it then. You must be like a kid in a playground because you're passionate about this stuff. And now you have your own little gym. So you must be, are you popping in there sort of once a week to get your fitness formula done?
I'm still there 6 days a week, not to work out, but to be there. But I still do. I'll do ARX once a week and Vasper once or twice a week, high octane ride once a week, the sauna, the brain training. Everything's pretty much once a week. Occasionally I'll do Vasper after an ARX workout just because of the sort of the recovery hormone, reducing cortisol, the benefits you get, systemic benefits that sort of help, that are synergistic with ARX.
Because that's the feeling I get, is that ARX really is so intense. I mean, I've used ARX before, and it was pretty intense. Do you find? I mean, the recommendations I hear from people using ARX is that quite often you can't work out more than once a week, which is just, I guess, because they're so intense and the inroad is so deep that you need that time to recover.
Yeah, I mean, we've had people that want to do like splits or something. I mean, we don't encourage that. We sort of take a big 5 or big 3 approach. So just focus on the compound multi-joint movements. We'll use the alpha for the leg press. And then depending on what level of fitness someone is at, we'll just stay right there on the alpha and do a chest press in a row right there and just do a big 3, call it a day. Versus if they're a little more conditioned, we'll go over and use the Omni for a horizontal press, just because you're on the cables there. So each arm is sort of independent, and do a pull down, overhead press, and a row as well. And we'll sometimes throw in like a Romanian deadlift or something. But we keep it pretty simple and focus on those multi-joint movements. Occasionally someone will want to do a bicep curl or tricep extension, and we'll let them do that. But for the most part, if they do those 3 or 5 exercises, it works. Cool. No need to, you're getting 80% of the benefit for sure.
And I guess before we wrap up, I think one of the questions on some people's minds, is certainly on my mind. I think I asked you this last time actually, but forget your answer because we spoke so long ago. Is you have 3 young boys. You are chief marketing officer in a business. You've got this clearly demanding full-time career, and you've got this side hustle. How do you do it all? What have you got any advice for time management? In terms of what enables you to do all this stuff successfully?
I mean, I would personally say it sort of starts with the nutrition, just because once I started fixing that, you create this new energy that you want to do something with, and then you just apply that to something you're passionate about, which in my case was creating a smart gym and sort of scratching my own itch around getting all these tools that we have at the gym. And so I think getting your house in order around your nutrition is probably priority number 1, sleep. And I'm a fan of mindfulness training as well. And so all of those things work together, and you just have more energy to do things. Just everything sort of, you figure out how to get stuff done when you have more energy. If you're tired all the time, that's when I think you don't feel like doing a little extra work to sort of move an idea forward.
What does your nutrition look like?
Early days, it was pretty strict keto. Now I just consider low carb. So can you 50 to 100 grams, 50 to 100 grams of carbs a day. Maybe we'll occasionally go out for sushi or Indian, and I'll splurge and have I don't like a cheat day, but a day of more carbs than usual.
Sure. And do you what does a typical day look like? Can you give us a snapshot of a standard day? Day's eating.
Bulletproof coffee in the morning. Mm-hmm. Big fan of that. Sometimes lunch. Sometimes I'll have just a bar or something like that for lunch. I don't usually eat lunch that often, and then a big dinner.
Oh, wow. So you literally have bulletproof coffee, maybe a protein bar or something for lunch. Is that right?
Yeah. And then if it's like a day after a sushi splurge, I'll probably try to take a day to maybe just bulletproof coffee, try to sort of fast that next day.
Okay. Obviously, that's not like total fast because you're taking all the fat calories as well, right? So it's kind of like
more
mimicking.
of a protein fast. You get some of the autophagy benefits.
Right. And you just get the energy. You still get the cognitive benefit, I suppose, of the being in ketosis and all the ketones and all that.
Oh, yeah. I think we tell a lot of people come into the gym to want to lose weight, and we try to help them think about it in the sense that the weight loss will be a side effect of having more energy. Like everything else is going to be better if you sort of don't focus on the weight loss as a goal. We do body composition as well, just because people are so focused on that bathroom scale, and they start doing strength training and they're getting freaked out because they're gaining weight or something like that. And so everyone's so focused on that number versus focus on how you feel. And that'll be a predictor of everything else.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's actually quite wise advice. I think this focus on calorie deficit, I just don't think it really works for a lot of people. Maybe it works for some people, but focusing on hitting a calorie deficit on a regular basis versus just eating the right things and then letting, improving your health the way you feel and then letting fat loss be a side effect. I mean, I don't know. I feel hesitant to actually say that. I've said it now, but sometimes I feel like I'm biased because I'm really similar to yourself. It's quite easy for me to get lean. And so some people will look at me and go, well, you can get away with doing that because of who you are. But I don't know. I just, how many people out there try calorie deficit, calorie controlled diets and don't succeed? It's ridiculous.
Well, there's just like the exercise world. There's so much bad information out there on the nutrition side. And I think if you look just what the CDC says, half the people are doing the recommended amount of aerobic. Not as many are doing strength training. Half of them are, a significant portion of them are eating the recommended daily or dietary guidelines. And then yet half the country has diabetes or prediabetes. And just you look at a Facebook news feed and it says coconut oil is going to kill you and low carb is going to shorten your life. So it's like, that's where I feel with the high intensity exercise, the nutrition, that there's a big opportunity selfishly from a marketing standpoint to sort of package that and make that easily digestible and make sense and try to clean up a lot of the confusion that's out there.
Yeah. Sounds good. You mentioned the big dinner. What does that typically look like?
Usually a meat. So we'll do steak, cauliflower, broccoli, and then I'll have some sort of other, another bar or something, I try not to cut my calories. Like you said, I'm not a fan of the caloric deficit. So if I don't have lunch, I still try to eat enough to not cut things, but really just based on hunger. So I can, for whatever, if I wait till dinner to eat, I can eat a lot more than if I had lunch. So just sort of listen. Once you get to a certain point, you can eat salt if you feel like you crave it, or eat more if you feel like you're more hungry, just because the signals your body's sending you make more sense when you're not eating all the processed crap.
Absolutely. What are your kind of go-to bars? Do you get the bulletproof bars? They're pretty tasty. I've had one of those before. They've already cost about £10 a bar, but
I'm a fan of right now the Quest bars, Quest protein bars.
Yeah. They're low carb, but I'm always a little bit skeptical over what else they put in there because there's lots of derivatives and ingredients that I don't recognize. Do you have any? Are you reading it now?
Yeah, just pulling it up.
I'm gonna hear
the natural flavors is always you've got to wonder. It's got a little bit of sucralose, but it's at the
right.
The big things I look for are there's some bars that I like, but unfortunately they use some of the seed oils like corn, soy, canola. A lot of these ones that are they're not natural. And I think if you talk to like Dr. Kate, she probably would say that's worse than sugar. You might it just wreaks havoc on your body consuming those seed oils. So I wanted a bar that has those. Yeah,
that's due to all the polyunsaturated fatty acids, right? In those, for the most part, is that right?
I think that's part of it, but I think the bigger thing is just how the fact that they're not very, they can't withstand the heat and the light.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're going to get omega-6 polyunsaturated, even eating other foods. But when you start eating those various oils that just have weaker bonds and can't withstand the heat, they just break down and form molecules that don't exist in nature, like trans fats, and your body can't defend against those.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's the thing. It's always best to eat whole food if you can. I suppose it's just for you, the bars are a bit more convenient because you're such a busy guy, probably moving around quite a bit. So I imagine that's what
we have some good food delivery services here now that are sort of keto aligned, low carb aligned, organic, pastured stuff. So even if you're on the go and you want to eat something, you get a frozen meal that you zap in the microwave for 4 minutes and you're eating pastured chicken wings or organic, whatever it is.
And do you smother your vegetables in butter?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Lots of Kerrygold.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I'm in Galway, so it's pretty easy to get. Although, ironically, it's hard to get unsalted Kerrygold here. You have to actually go to the UK's got loads of that. But for some reason, I mean, maybe other parts of Ireland have it, but Galway is it's quite hard to get. I had to actually ask them in the local supermarket to order some in because it's all salted, which is okay, but unsalted is more ideal. But that being said, all the butter here is grass fed, so you don't really need Kerrygold to just get any unsalted butter, and it's grass fed.
Yeah.
The meat here, most of it's grass fed, and it's so affordable. I mean, you wouldn't believe it, Josh. Like I picked up 18% fat, a kilo of ground meat. It's pretty much I think it's grass fed. I'm pretty sure it is. For like $7.
Wow.
So and to get grass fed meat where you are is quite expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, we have like Butcher Box. I'm sure you've heard of some of those.
Yeah.
So we got 3 little boys, and so we consume a ton of food. So having to go to the grocery and buy meat all the time, it's easier just to buy it frozen, throw it in the freezer and thaw it out.
Sure. Josh, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me today. What's the best way for the listeners to find out more about you and what you're up to?
Probably just go to the website, quantifyfitness.com. And then we have social media for all the various accounts, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Facebook's probably most active, but you can link from that, all from the website.
Nice one. I will put that all in the show notes on the website. And to find the blog post for this episode, please go to corporatewarrior.co/quantify-fitness. And for all episodes, please go to corporatewarrior.co/podcast. And until next time, guys, thank you very much for listening.
Discover how to improve health, become a great personal trainer, and build a successful high-intensity strength training business. Check out corporatewarrior.co. corporatewarrior.co.
This episode is brought to you by ARX, the most innovative, efficient, and effective all-in-one exercise machines I have ever seen. I was really impressed with my ARX workout. The intensity and adaptive resistance was unlike anything I've ever experienced. I love how the machine enables you to increase the negative load to fatigue target muscles more quickly, and I love how the workouts are effortlessly quantified. The software tracks maximum force output, rate of work, total amount of work done, and more in front of you on screen, allowing you to compete with your previous performance to give you and your clients real-time motivation. The ARX uses a computer-controlled motor to give you the exact amount of resistance your clients need 100% of the time. This means that the resistance can never become dangerous, is intuitive and simple to use, and can provide you with all of the results you and your clients are looking for in a fraction of the time. ARX is highly effective and efficient in delivering all of the benefits of exercise, including increased strength, muscle mass, cardiovascular conditioning, bone mineral density, and injury recovery. As well as being utilized by many high-intensity trainers to deliver highly effective and efficient workouts to their clients, ARX comes highly recommended by world-class trainers and brands, including Bulletproof, Tony Robbins, and Ben Greenfield Fitness. To To find out more about ARX and get $500 off install when you place an order, please go to arxfit.com and mention Corporate Warrior in the How Did You Hear About Us field. So again, to get $500 off install when you order, head on over to arxfit.com and enter Corporate Warrior in the How Did You Hear About Us field.